Welcome to the show. I'm James.
I'm David.
I'm Riley.
And today we are discussing Edgar Wright's 2021 film, Last Night in Soho. We'll laugh, we'll argue, we might get a little too into it, but at the end of the day, they're just movies.
That's a lovely spoiler alert.
I'm enjoying this.
Thank you.
I'm enjoying this so much.
And if you're one of those people who watch the movies ahead of time, next week we're going to do The Eternals, the new Marvel movie from the director of Nomadland.
The podcast will be infinitely long.
That's going to be a bizarre movie. David,
I work very hard.
huge Edgar Wright fan.
Yes.
What are you giving this movie out of 10?
Oh, so you like Midnight in Paris, huh? Well, you should try 3:37 a.m. in London, where you come face to face with truly the most horrifying goals this planet has ever known. Straight white cis men.
Oh.
7.3, 10 out of 10. I was way more scared than I expected to be at this movie.
Wait, what'd you say? 7.3,
7.
10? I thought you were
7.3 out of 10.
I thought you were giving it a 3 decibel.
No, we're not
You
doing
got the
that.
zeros in there, doing sig figs.
7 point.
Where does this rank in your Edgar Wright ladder?
I mean, it'll settle somewhere. I think it'll settle around Baby Driver, which is, I think I gave it around a 7. I think this movie's going to suck on rewatches. I think there's kind of some major questions that just make it weird on rewatches, but the experience was good. And like the last kind of 2/3 of it, I really enjoyed the delving into madness and a lot of the visuals. And there's a lot of like the good Edgar Wright stuff. And then there's a lot of the bad Edgar Wright stuff. So why don't you guys tell me what you think?
Okay. Last Night in Soho is a mesmerizing warning against naivete and a creative mashup of musical drama and psychological horror with an unfortunately messy and cheesy third act. It's not enough to sour the whole experience, though, so bring on a sequel.
What?
No!
I'm just kidding.
Last night.
No.
Penultimate night in Soho.
The way
Tomorrow
that it
night in
ended,
Amsterdam.
showing Sandy in the mirror, I'm like, oh, she's around.
Yeah.
Now continue the... No, I'm just kidding. I
Oh
don't
my
want
God, they
that.
do like a Friday the 13th franchise where Sandy just keeps jumping around different people.
It's Candyman for white women.
I'm giving it a 7.25 out of 10.
We're pretty close, man.
Yeah, I was surprised how close we are on
We've been
this.
connecting on our scores recently, Riley.
Wow.
You guys
Do you
Your
think
feet
there's
are touching
something
under the table, aren't they?
I'm excited.
Hey, put those vesties back on. All right. It's stylish. It's layered. It's well acted. It's Edgar Wright's best film to date.
Whoa.
If it didn't start to unravel in the last act, it might be my favorite non-Dune movie of the year.
Of the mirror.
The year.
Wait, was that on purpose?
Oh!
Oh my gosh.
But it did unravel. That is. So 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
What?
I really liked it.
Did you say this was the best Edgar Wright movie?
I don't like his other movies.
No.
We've done all the movies we've covered. I've always been like, "Meh."
Forget
enough.
which.
What have we done? We've done Baby Driver. We've done Shaun of the Dead. We've
Scott
done
Pilgrim,
Scott
Hot Fuzz.
Pilgrim. We didn't do Hot
Oh,
Fuzz on
Scott
this.
We
Pilgrim
did
is
Hot
better
Fuzz?
than
Oh, we
this.
did.
You did Hot Fuzz. I think they're all better than this except Baby Driver.
No, man. To me, it was like he had everything that he was good at was in this movie, and then it was elevated to like a more mature, more nuanced. It was just him in peak form. I just loved it.
What I liked about it is that it's him more, you're right, laid back and relaxed into the director's role. He doesn't feel as showy as he normally is, but there is a few times where I'm like, oh, there he is.
Well, but I liked that. I think that his distinct style that we've discussed many, many times before lends itself well to this movie. But I think there are some parts where it's like, you've never directed a horror movie before, and we can see that happening.
And maybe that's why I don't like the final act of the movie, because, that's the horroriest
It's
part
the
of it.
cheesiest part of the movie, but I think I really liked it. I think that's when I had the most fun with the movie because it was just silly and campy and like goofy. I
wasn't looking for that. I was looking for like a deep, crazy...
I think we can all agree. I think the middle part is the best part.
Yes.
Once like the crazy stuff's happening, the good visuals are happening, but we're not in the beginning. I found the beginning so dull. I almost found it like an M. Night Shyamalan movie where like grandma's like, you have the gift.
Well,
I was like, oh God,
you're asking yourself, is it a gift or is it a illness?
which is fine. But then like even the roommate and stuff, it was all so like cheesy and heavy-handed. But anyways,
There's lots of good stuff to talk about.
Right after this message from our sponsor, Private Internet Access VPN. PIA helps you hide your true IP address so that you can bypass geo restrictions and censorship. You can connect up to 10 devices at once, and it includes an internet kill switch if your VPN gets disconnected involuntarily. PIA is available for Windows, Mac, Android, iOS, and even has a Chrome extension in a parallel but past universe. So check it out at lmg.gg/carpoolcritics.
I was like, I don't want to do a stabby
we've done those a
noise.
few many times.
Yeah. I actually,
I should probably let you know what happened though first.
yeah, sure.
Ellie Turner loves the music and fashion of the 1960s and dreams of becoming a fashion designer just like her mother, who committed suicide when Ellie was 7 and now visits her as a ghost in mirrors. You know, as they do. Ellie's accepted to the London College of Fashion, but hates the party-hard vibe in her dorm, so she rents a nearby room owned by the elderly Miss Collins. At night, Ellie has vivid dreams of 60s London, where a young blonde singer named Sandy begins dating her charming manager, Jack. Inspired, Ellie dyes her hair blonde and designs and wears clothes based on Sandy's style, getting a job at a pub to pay for it. But Ellie's dreams turn to nightmares when she discovers that Jack pimped Sandy out to his associates, who begin haunting Ellie as faceless ghosts. Ellie is comforted by her one nice classmate, John, but one night their attempt at hanky-panky is interrupted by Ellie's vision of Jack killing Sandy. Ellie tells the police she believes a silver-haired man she saw at the pub is Jack, but they don't take her seriously, and after the ghosts nearly make Ellie stab a classmate, she goes to confront the man. He denies killing Sandy before being hit by a taxi, and the pub's owner tells Ellie he isn't Jack, but a former cop who Ellie recalls attempting to help Sandy in her dreams. Devastated, Ellie decides to leave London, so John drives her back to her flat, where Miss Collins serves her tea and tells her the police came by asking questions. Miss Collins then reveals she is Sandy, and she killed Jack and the men who abused her, and hid their bodies in the house, and also the tea is poisoned. John comes to the door and is stabbed by Sandy, whose cigarette falls and ignites a box of records. Ellie flees upstairs, where the ghosts beg Ellie to kill Sandy, but she refuses. Sandy sees the ghosts, including Jack's, who slaps her? And with the police outside, she tries to slit her throat, but is stopped by Ellie, who tells her she understands why she killed the men. Sandy tells Ellie to save herself and John, then sits down on the bed as the building burns down. Sometime later, Ellie has her dresses showcased at a college fashion show and is congratulated by her grandmother and John. Ellie sees a vision of her mother in a mirror, followed by Sandy, who waves and blows a kiss. Yay, more ghost friends! So, like, I feel like one question that I like that they answered right away was the fact that this is not a... Well, it is a mental illness, I guess, but it's like it correlates to something real. She sees ghosts.
Yeah, they're supernatural.
Yes, because she learns things that are then confirmed in real life.
Yep.
She has the hickey on her neck from the dream. How did you...
That could be psychosomatic.
Yeah, well, I guess, I mean, how did you guys feel about that? Was it in your mind real or not real?
I think by the end of the movie, it's definitely real. I think at the beginning, you could argue either way. And I think the movie does a pretty good job of stringing you along in that way, where you're not really sure if she is going crazy or if this is real. But
even higher than that, was it ghost to you? Like, was it just a dream state? Like, to you at the beginning, earlier stages of the movie, when she has these visions, are you thinking like, oh, that's just part of her subconscious? Or were you thinking, that's a historical figure, that's a real person, these are ghosts?
Well, this is what's strange about the early scenes where her grandma indicates that she knows about her gift or condition or whatever, and she's like, oh, are you seeing your mom again or whatever? Which is like, at that point, it's still pretty ambiguous, because that could be something that people would say to people who have had like hallucinations in the past, but then she calls it her gift, I think, at some point, so it's like, okay, wait, is it supernatural, and is her grandma aware that it's a supernatural thing? I feel like in order for someone to watch the whole movie and at the end be like, that was all supernatural, we have to like throw out, or we have to assume that some of the things that Ellie experienced were just in her head, but we were seeing it as the audience. Like the hickey thing. Someone comes up to her and is like, oh, you made it. Oh, that's a nice love bite there. So it's like...
Wait, you're saying that didn't happen?
Well, if it's all in her head, she's imagining that, but the audience is seeing it as if it's real. So it's like, in my mind, it has to be supernatural unless we just want to take these scenes.
The film is telling us, because the grandma's saying, you have a gift. So, okay, we know that. And we're shown, mom's looking at me in the mirror. Yeah. And we know the mom's dead. And so we're supposed to take those as facts.
And I think it's...
Right. So you're saying it's supposed to be real.
I think it's established as a supernatural ability, and it is happening in real life. It's not just all in her mind.
I think I was unsure the first couple dream nights when she kind of like first goes into the 60s and stuff. I wasn't sure if it was like her entering the 60s and like seeing something new, or if it was like not like time travel, but like you weren't sure if she could actually affect the past or she couldn't. But by the end, because she was right about the serial killings, or she was right about some of the things that happened. You know that she did have a supernatural connection.
In order
Definitely
for
solidified at the
in
end.
order for it to not to be supernatural, we would have to have like a Shutter Island-esque, like it was all a dream, and really you were
You're Sandy.
or really you had already gone through all the newspapers and you knew about the story ahead of time, and that's why you had the dreams.
I think Edgar really wanted us to have this discussion and have that feeling in the cinema because it's really gradual, like how integrated into the dream she is. At first, what is it? At first, she's walking around. She's embodied. It's her perspective, and then she sees this other woman in the mirror. That eventually they switch spots, and then she's in the mirror and she's powerless.
Yeah.
But they always have that barrier where one is in real life and the other is just in reflections.
Yeah.
Then I think it's by the end of that first dream, one of them she breaks through the barrier, and they're standing side by side. And then it's like by the end of the next dream that they reach out and touch, like she touches her shoulder at the end of the dream.
It seems like every time
it gets more and more personal.
Yeah. And I feel like she manages to touch Sandy a few times, but every time she touches her, she wakes up.
I feel like it was a little bit inconsistent where I wasn't sure if they had to be like one body or not. Because there's a few times where you see Ellie sitting watching her like in the audience and stuff. And I was like, oh, how does that work? Like, how does the physicality of it, like, how does the lore of this work? But I let it go.
I think I just care. I basically hand waved it away as it's like it's dream logic.
Yeah,
sometimes she is Sandy, sometimes she's watching.
I don't think it's important, but you guys are definitely not alone. I remember I was walking out of the theater and somebody else was like, I didn't understand the rules.
Classic, lore heads. Wait a second, if I have a dream, if I want to travel back in time, how do I do it?
It's not Inception.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter as much in this movie, I don't think.
Yeah.
This is like when you look back, it's pretty clear the linear line of events that happens.
Yeah.
That was.
I wanna talk about Edgar Wright and his style here. It's his first. Is it his first horror movie? I mean, Shaun of the Dead doesn't really count.
No.
Yeah. And it was really interesting knowing and being acquainted with his style in the past. He's always had a very fun, kind of crazy, like action adventure.
Hyperactive.
It's still here.
Yeah,
It's still here.
and it's definitely here in parts. I feel like definitely in the first act or whatever of the movie, it's very clear. I mean, like there's a lot of things that happen, and from a screenplay perspective, it seems really tight. Like she's in the cab, and the guy's kind of creepy, and she's like, I don't know.
That was intense.
That was so unsettling.
Yeah, she's like, I don't have enough cash or whatever. He's like, I'm sure we could work something out. Like, I'm like, and so like creepy cab driver, and then like a minute later, she meets John for the first time. She doesn't meet him.
Yeah, and he's not presented as a nice guy. He's presented as a creepy guy standing outside her dorm.
Well, no, I mean, I didn't think he looked creepy. I thought he just looked like a student chilling outside the dorm because I knew that was a dorm. And he's like, hey, do you need help with that? But it makes perfect sense that, if she hadn't had this interaction with the cab driver, she might have been like, oh, yes, thank you.
Yeah,
Right. Because if she had been the same Ellie as had been speaking to her grandma before, where she said, Grandma, it's fine. I can take care of myself. It's going to be great. And just directly went from there to the dorm, she probably would have hit him up on the offer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but she was made to feel so small.
Yeah.
That was a really effective taxi ride. Holy fuck.
So I thought that like juxtaposition between the cab driver and John was really good. And the other thing I really noticed about in terms of the style was like her first dialogue with Jocasta. It was so tight. Like there were so many like little in jokes and references. I feel like I wasn't catching them all. Like she was like, "Oh what does your dad do or whatever?" And Ellie's like, "Oh, I never knew him." And she's like, "Oh, tell me about it."
Yeah.
But it's like not like that. It's not the same. She probably like knows her dad, but she doesn't know him. Yeah.
Okay. I hated Jocasta so fast. So the script was so tight at the beginning.
Yes.
I've heard screenwriters in the past say things like how long until the audience member says, I fucking love this character, and they have to say that about the protagonist like as soon as possible. And in this movie, I felt like that by the time she was in the car headed to London. I loved Ellie.
Okay.
And then within the first scene with Jocasta, I hated Jocasta
so much.
It was such a tight script from that perspective.
I totally agree. My feeling of hatred for her was very strong. I felt like it was maybe too heavy-handed, maybe too heightened.
Well, she was the most, in my estimation, Scott Pilgrim-y character.
Yeah.
He fit in that movie.
Totally.
For sure.
Yeah.
Even just like when she's like, oh, what happened to your mom? She's like, oh, my mom killed herself. And it's like, my great uncle killed himself, so I totally know what you're going through. It's like, yeah.
Shut up.
And even just like, oh, yeah, just some of the snarky lines. What does she say about her clothes? She's like, oh, all of us came in our Sunday best, and oh, you came in what you're wearing.
But I will say that like the execution was flawless of this sort of like passive aggressive girl form of fighting. Like we see some we see the worst parts of masculinity in this movie, but this is also showing the worst parts of femininity, where this is how they fight, right? It's like these little digs. And like the execution was really done really well there, but I was like, man, I was so annoyed. Like it was very heavy-handed for me.
I didn't find her to be too much of a caricature and too goofy.
Yeah.
I thought what's more goofy to me is the other girls on the dorm room eventually just being her like squad that stands in the background and like nods along.
The sidekicks.
Yeah, they all became sidekicks, which to me that's just a little more cartoony.
Yeah, they were all kind of very shallow, very one-dimensional.
Yeah.
And I think that was a bit of a bummer because you wish that she had connection to the real world, but that's not the focus of this movie.
This was definitely one of the weaknesses for me of a movie like this being made by Edgar Wright, because he is so snappy and everything is like boom, 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 on to the next. I felt like there were some interactions where I wish that we saw a little bit more of the conversation. Like the one that makes me think of that is when John asks her out for the first time and he's like, oh, hey, I got you the Coke back or whatever. You want to hang out or whatever. And she, what happens? She like makes a quip back.
He said least I could do. And she said, what's the most you can
what's
do?
the most you can do?
What did I say that?
Yeah. But then the conversation just kind of ends.
And
I'm like, so did they try to make other plans or like see around? Like I want to know what the extent of that conversation was and how deep their friendship is, because later he comes around and he's like, hey, Ellie, like
loyal.
trying to be friendly with her and stuff. And I'm like, how much have you interacted?
You want to watch Juno.
We've skipped past it. It's like, feels like a montage.
I totally agree, where I think him asking her out, I believe up to there, but his deep loyalty to her, even in the face of her absolute like psychosis, I don't really buy. I'm like, I need a little bit more of why he cares so much about her.
I mean,
because like she freaks out at the club and then she goes outside and like she's still freaking out and then they go to her house, which is a bad idea on her part. But then like she freaks out at him and like it's like that would be a traumatic experience for him.
That guy would be like, I'm out of here.
Yeah, and then later again he like shows up again for her and I'm like, all right, okay. And then like another traumatic thing happens, like he stops her from stabbing someone in the face.
Yeah.
Like saves someone's life because she's gone crazy. Again, and then again he shows up and he shows up for her and I'm like, why?
I will say
why
that
is he showing up for her?
I will say that from a viewer, I don't know, I appreciated him being such a good guy in the movie, because I don't like watching people go through this stuff with like no ray of hope, no sort of like possible exit route. And so like having him be there and constantly trying to extend this like kindness to her, and her constantly just kind of screwing it up.
Yeah.
I don't know. It made me feel a little bit more comfortable in the theater.
That's fair.
Which made the scares a bit more enjoyable, because I was like, I get the feeling that maybe this will turn out okay.
And how kind was he? So kind.
He was so nice.
So
the
kind.
nicest guy.
I will say that like university students, I mean, I feel like maybe at our age, if you kind of encounter somebody and they are like having episodes like that, you're like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But like when you're in university,
I've seen this shit before. See you later.
I know people who met in university, and one of them went through like psychosis, and they like a mental illness kind of like got triggered during their time in university, and they stayed together for years, and now they're married, and it's like, and I did not expect them to stay together. I'm like, what are you doing? But like the one who did not have the mental illness was like, I'm here to support you. They went and visited them when they got put in the
Some people
hospital.
have compassion, Riley.
Yeah,
I do not.
So I think what I'm saying is that when you're in university, you feel more deeply. You're younger.
That's fair.
These emotions are running through your system, and so I think that it was almost believable, him having that empathy for her, seeing what she went through when she first arrived.
Sure.
Yeah. Also, by the way, I loved when she first arrived and like there's the party vibe and she's like not into it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel the vibe.
Oh, that was my first nitpick actually. It was
really?
It's cuts to the morning, like she had been sleeping there in the corner with her headphones on all night, and then she was late for class. I was like, no. You sleep like that, you're up at like 5 a.m. being like, I can't sleep, I'm so tired.
Yeah.
You're not sleeping until 10.
Maybe she's just not used to staying up
That
all
was just
night.
whatever. It was a movie contrivance, convenience. It's
Yeah.
fine. That's fine. We're not on nitpicks yet.
No.
Here's my hit pick of the film, basically.
Big hit pick.
Huge hit pick. Was basically the message of the film and how the two characters, Sandy and the real character, Eloise Debonair, as she their relationship, because before you even know what it takes a turn at the end, but I was sitting there being like, I felt like I really got the movie. I felt like I really understood the movie while I was watching the first half of the movie. And to me, it was about like the dramatic question of the movie is like, can she make it in Soho? When she's talking to her grandma and she's so full of confidence and she knows who she is and what she's going to go out and do in the world. And then she's so sure she can do it. And it's all optimism. And then she goes out into the world and she finds it's not so easy. And we all have that part of us inside that's like, well, maybe I'm not as good as I thought I was. And maybe I actually can't make it. Maybe I don't have what it takes.
Yeah.
Right.
And so she starts to be devoured by those feelings. And then she has the dream. And in the dream, she sees her essential being in Sandy. She sees who she could be. She sees a person who's doing what
that same journey.
That same journey for a while. And during that period, she's integrating from Sandy into herself those things that she really wants to espouse, right? She's going to be more confident. She's going to have these cool quips. She's going to have a bold hair and a bold coat.
Yeah.
But then she sees the kind of like shattered visage when Sandy starts to get taken advantage of. It's like, if even the perfect Sandy couldn't make it in this crazy world of Soho, surely I can't. And then that just keeps spiraling down until the kind of all is lost moment of the film. And I think it's just super cool that those characters are kind of joined together. Like they have their parallel kind of journeys. And they stitch those characters together through the dancing. Yeah. Because the one is a fashion designer and the other is a performer. But the opening shot of this movie is Ellie dancing. And so they have that kind of thing in common. And that's how they bridge the two visually on the screen is these dance scenes. I just thought that was just wicked. It's worked so well.
I really love Sandy's journey throughout this. And I think it's like they do a really good job, like you said, of connecting the two characters and connecting the audience to what Sandy's going through. And I feel like as she's having her tragic downfall, I felt awful. I felt disgusted at the world and these men and everything that was happening to her. And like, there's that turning point where it's after the show at the cabaret or whatever, and she's like that clockwork girl. And then they're walking through the hallway, and it's that one shot, and you just kind of see inside each room for a second. Someone's doing like heroin, someone's giving a blowjob, like everything's happening. And
the veil gets pulled back there. Jeez,
yeah, you're not special.
Yeah,
oh
my God,
wasn't making an exception for you.
That was rough. Yeah, I mean, that's why I wrote in my slogan that it was about a warning against naivete, because like that great sequence in the beginning where Ellie's in the newspaper dress and she's like dancing, you can really see her passion and her like how much she loves this stuff, right? I love how her movements are like, she obviously has rehearsed it and she has a bunch of the flourishes down and stuff, but there's like a little bit of an amateur vibe to it where like her movements aren't perfect and they're just like a little bit off, and it's just like immediately endearing, and we get that she is like putting the 60s on a pedestal. And so when she has these dreams, she sees this thing that she has like, well, she has like nostalgia about it, but she hasn't actually lived it, so she's experiencing it, and it's about taking this thing that people think is this wonderful crazy thing and just being like, oh yeah, it's shit like everything else in the world. There's a dark underbelly. And it's interesting because I saw a article where Edgar Wright talked about this like whole genre of movies in the 60s and 70s where we have this journey. We have this like archetypal story of like a person from the countryside going to the city and having big dreams, and then over the course of like trying to accomplish it, they are like, it's not going to happen. And maybe they like come to a compromise, maybe it's a tragedy, whatever. But like most of the time in those movies, it wasn't like a happy ending.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see the same type of archetype in the story play out in multiple forms here. We have those original stories. We have the Sandy story, which is like a total tragedy.
Yeah.
And then we have the Ellie version, which is like she realizes, she learns about what has happened before, and then she gets a happy ending.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I feel about the happy ending. How did you guys feel about it being like a hopeful, like, 'cause it seemed really unrealistic to me all of a sudden. It's like darkness, horrible things, bad, like the world sucks, everything sucks. But she succeeded.
Yeah.
And John didn't have lasting trauma from getting stabbed.
It was an interesting final choice, for sure.
I just feel like it kind of undercut all the themes that were being presented.
For sure.
It's like, but after all that, everything's okay.
I agree with you guys that I think the last act is kind of the most messy, and even how they resolve Sandy's story where she's just kind of accepts. Like, I like when she goes upstairs and she sees the ghost and she's like, she feels the regret, and she's like, they deserved it, and she's like, I know, or whatever.
Yeah.
I like that, but I don't know. I get this. I think a big failing of the movie is they fail to connect Miss Collins to Sandy. And I had a hard time, like, in my mind, bridging the gap and connecting them. And I think because I didn't know Miss Collins that well, I knew Sandy. It didn't have the impact that I wanted it to have at the end.
When did you call her being Sandy?
So it crossed my mind early on, but I was like, no, there's no way that's that. So I think
really?
I connected it when the movie wanted to, which was with the envelope. When
Yeah.
you see the Alexander, I was like, oh, okay. Oh,
And then they,
at
like,
the end.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
you see it flash by on an envelope probably like 40 seconds or less
Yeah.
before they say it out loud.
That's when I like knew. Yeah.
This is so. What about you, James? What?
Only then. I didn't think about it
Really?
before.
Oh man.
I
okay.
thought I had a bunch of other things, like maybe that guy who ended up being a cop was her dad, or
Yeah.
various
So,
other
like,
things.
so after
I
the
thought maybe
first-
Sandy was her mom for a bit.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I after the first dream, she has the whole dream in the 60s or whatever, and then at the end of the dream, Sandy comes back to the same apartment that Ellie is in, and so then she wakes up, and I think she sees Miss Collins.
Okay.
Shortly after that, and I was like, I wrote down like, oh my God, is Anya Taylor-Joy Miss Collins?
Oh, nice.
Because I forgot her name.
Returning to that room really does give it away. On a rewatch, you would see
so
that.
then right away I was like, oh, she's probably Mrs. Collins. But then later they throw you off because Ellie comes to Miss Collins and asks like, did a girl die in that room? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, lots of girls have died in rooms. And she's like, a girl named Sandy. And she's like, they've had all sorts of names, blah, 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 blah. Which is interesting because like, maybe she's repressed that or whatever. She doesn't think of herself as Sandy anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
But like they throw you off there
That's a
because
big
at
throw.
that point I was like, oh, okay, so she might not be Sandy.
Yeah.
But then
He played you like a fiddle.
But then later we have another reveal, like the silverhead guy, Lindsay. What's an actor's name?
Terrence Palick.
Terrence Malik.
Nope. Anyways,
That guy. We think he's Jack, and then they turn out he's not Jack, and I'm like, oh, what if Miss Collins is Jack? Now there's a whole nother twist to the story.
Yeah.
But no, Then when it is revealed that she is Sandy, I felt like kind of disappointed because I was like, oh.
Oh, really? I feel like for me, that's the strength of the movie is I feel like I was strung along in just the right way where the movie wanted me to know. Because, again, it crossed my mind that the silver-haired man might be the cop.
Terrence Stamp.
Terrence Stamp, that's it.
Yeah.
Might be the cop. But then the movie kind of did misdirects or got me far enough away that I'm like, I guess it is Jack. Like, and then right at the moment when he dies, he's like, that's a cop. You're like, oh no. And I had the, like, I think the right reaction at the right moment. So that's like a strength of the movie.
I dug Collins being Sandy. I thought that was okay. It was a little thinner ice when she was like, so yes, someone did die in that room. I was like, yeah, okay.
I guess in a way you could say I died. The part of me that blah blah blah. Yeah. It was a little
Okay.
But that's the part of the movie that things start to get cheesy and kind of silly.
Let's talk about that finale because there's parts of it I like, but it is the most like she can't be.
Yeah.
And like I the visual of when she's up in her bedroom and she's like getting to the receiver to call 911 and the ghosts come out of the wall and the floor, like that was a haunting visual and I liked the visual itself.
I wish that the hands plunging through the floorboards and grabbing her, I wish that was practical. And they did it.
Was it not practical?
It looked very CG to me.
Some of them, I think it's both.
Well, the glass shattering was CG, but I thought that there were real hands grabbing her.
I hope
but
so.
that's
I
when
don't
she's
know.
on the bed. Those are real hands.
Yeah.
But when she was crawling on the floor and they're coming through the floorboards, I thought it looked pretty CG to me. And I think it might have had to do with the fact that just the way the ghost looked and how they're all kind of, what do you say, phasing.
Yeah.
Like maybe they went all CG for that reason, but
Maybe.
I thought, man, get some hands to plunge through those floorboards. Come on.
The ghost effects didn't seem super CG to me. Like
I think it
looked like they took kind of did like what the Lord of the Rings did, where they make these weird masks and then they kind of like layer them over a few times so it's like distorted and stuff. And
I'd imagine they're as practical as can be because Edgar Wright is a big proponent of practical effects. I think the ghosts were horrifying.
Yeah,
they were really
scary,
effective.
especially the first time.
Yeah, the first time in that library, that scene when they're like slowly crawling up on her, I was like, no, stop it. Stop it, ghosts.
Yeah. I guess, man, and that's part of the reason that it's important to me to establish whether it's supernatural or not, because I want to know how scared to be. Because I'm like, if this is all in her head, I'm not that scared.
Yeah.
If it's real and these are real ghosts, I'm going to be scared.
Oh, you know what though? It's more than that because during that library scene when she almost stabs Jocasta and stuff, part of you is wondering, is this just mental illness? Like basically what you said, but that is a different kind of fear because if it's that's almost scarier.
Yeah.
What if it's just mental illness?
Yeah, it's almost scarier because it's like this poor girl goes to university and just has like everyone around her just sees a freak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You think that's scarier?
If I'm Ellie, that's scary. Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, I don't know. I disagree. I feel like I would be more scared if it was like real ghosts, because like who knows what's gonna happen there? All the bets are off. There's no rules.
If I can see real ghosts, man, I can sell that. I can monetize that somehow.
I mean, like, what if they take her over her mind and like put her in a prison of her own making?
To me, there's not much scarier than you think not knowing what's real and what's not real, and you having a different version of reality than other.
Well, sure.
people
I just
around
mean
you.
that like if it's a real mental illness, there are ways to mitigate that we know about, and there's no perfect cures. But I just mean that like that's something that we sort of understand. If it was a supernatural thing, it's like there are no rules, there's no playbook. I don't know.
I think
that's unknown. So that's more.
I think for me, why that horror works is that those ghosts exist as Schrodinger's ghosts, where as it's presented, they're both supernatural and in her mind. So you get the horror elements of both aspects of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's scary because it's like, is it ghost? Is it not? It's both.
It definitely was scary.
Yeah. Because even if it's like, if she's justified that guys, she's trying to stab ghosts. You don't get it. What she sees is crazy. If you could see it, you would believe her.
Exactly.
Like, even in that case, it's still scary.
Yeah.
And if it's the opposite case, it's still scary. It's scary in both cases.
It's
and
both
you're feeling
cases. Yeah,
emotions.
it's scary in both.
And then
ways.
not knowing which is also scary.
Yes.
If you know for sure.
Right,
then it's like
exactly.
there's some certainty.
And I guess that's what I'm saying, though. Although if I knew that it was just a mental illness thing, I wouldn't be as afraid for her life.
For sure. I can agree with that. Let's talk about like some of the performances because
such great casting.
Such great casting. Man, I have never hated anyone as much as I hate Matt Smith in this movie.
That's Jack.
Yeah, Jack.
Yeah.
Holy fuck, man.
I know.
I wrote down at the beginning, I'm like, oh, he's so charming. I would fall for him. And then like the turn, the like twisting of his like charm into something so vile.
Yeah.
Oh, I wanted to stab him.
Well, but it's funny though. It's funny though because like he is presented as very charming and not necessarily malicious in the beginning.
Yep.
But the fact that they go so fast into this managerial into this both business and romantic relationship, like in a day.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, girl, that's a mistake. What are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not going to end well, even if he's a good guy. You don't mix business and pleasure, especially one day after you met the person.
Yep. That's called pleasure.
No one wants the B word there.
No one wants business. And then the two leading ladies,
Yes.
Thomasin McKenzie.
Oh my
How do you
God.
say that name, David?
Which one?
Thomasin?
Thomasin? I don't know how.
Is it French?
But Thomasin McKenzie,
Cool.
Thomasin McKenzie
T-Mac.
and Anya Taylor-Joy.
rising star, man. Both of them.
Both of
Yeah.
them. And can you imagine if they had flipped and played the other role?
What do you mean?
No, it wouldn't work.
Wouldn't work at all.
No.
Like she has, Mackenzie has this naivety, has this look to her of she has almost like a nerdy kind of look.
When
Like
like
a scrappy.
And she's got frailty.
Yes. Yeah. She played the have you
Jojo Rabbit.
Yes. You guys both
Didn't we
saw that?
do Jojo Rabbit on the podcast?
She had a
No,
more
we didn't.
Oh, okay.
she was more like
should've.
fierce in that one.
Yeah.
More of a survivor.
But that's because she's playing it against like a 12-year-old.
But she
Yeah.
has it's the fierceness comes from like a fear as well. I feel like her eyes are so great for like I don't know what color they are, but they just like emit
blue.
this sort of like awareness and like anxiety.
Yeah.
Great.
She just looks super real. And also like her face has that quality of like some angles.
Yeah.
She's a supermodel.
Yeah.
Some angles she's just a kid.
Normal
Just
girl.
a gangly
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
She can really do a lot. And then you've got Anya Taylor-Joy who just has like that kind of just like in Queen's Gambit. Man, her eyes are nuts.
Her eyes are very far apart. She looks like a deer.
She's a cartoon.
She has this like raw like
I don't mean that in a negative way.
sexuality.
Like obviously it's like her features are just kind of like tweaked a little bit to be like, that's intriguing. Tell me more.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
that's what you need for her to be famous.
Right.
You can't have like a generic haughty
Yeah.
look like
Well, and it's perfect. Like her face
Henry
is perfect.
Cavill.
Yeah.
It's versus
Henry
Adrian
Cavill.
Brody's nose.
Henry Cavill could not have played Sandy.
No, but she has that like kind of like
It's haunting.
haunting sex appeal with like also she's really good at breaking down and being strung out.
Yeah.
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 No, I think my favorite performance in this movie. And she's like, I always knew she was good, but
Captivating in the beginning.
She's captivating, and she has that same naivete, but it's carried so differently, and so you get this different dimensions of naivete in the movie.
Yeah,
that really work and
like
complement
she's better
each
at
other.
pretending she knows what's happening.
Yes.
Totally, and
She
like
has
she's
the
like,
confidence.
I'm gonna be a star.
Yeah.
Whereas like Thomasin doesn't really have that same.
She can command a
swag.
room so easily.
It's kind of funny because like Sandy kind of embodies the sort of like, what do you call it? Idealistic vision
Moxie.
of well, I was
good
gonna
word.
say that like this idealistic vision that Ellie has of what people were like in the 60s. You know, it's like, I'm gonna stride in here, and if I believe that I can make something of myself, God damn it, I will.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, and so like it's almost like we know that this is a real thing that happened, but it's almost like Ellie is also coloring things with what she thinks about the 60s, and over the course of the dreams, that's broken down. It's like, actually, no, there's a dark underbelly. Yeah. Man or shit, you know what I mean?
Well, and like, man, that dark underbelly is so dark. Like, I like that. I love all the different montages. I love the one at the bar when she's like doing the dance to draw the man, and then she'll sit down and they'll be like, "What's your name, beautiful?" And she's like, "It's Lexi." "Oh, that's a beautiful name." And she's like, "Ah ha ha ha." And then it just gets worse and worse. No matter what name she provides, that's a beautiful name, and it gets
Man.
worse. And then she hits the low point, and she like laughs again,
Laughs.
and like you're like, "Oh God, she's broken."
I had that as one
Yeah.
of my hit picks.
Yeah, I
it
was like,
really
"Whoa."
just it really just hit home that she
Yeah.
is broken at that point.
And it's such a great moment to insert that cop because you only see him for like 30 seconds, but he sticks with you. And like he was so different. And for the rest of the movie, you're like, I know that he's going to come back. Like he wasn't there just for this. So it's a really effective use
Man,
of my
they really
time.
made him seem creepy.
For sure. But that's what the thing is. Like, you're like, is he good? Is he bad? I don't know.
I guess from her perspective, he's as creepy as any of the other guys.
He's really good looking though.
That's
that
true.
That actor, I'm trying to find
the young cop.
Yeah.
Especially compared
Where
to
do
all
they
the
get this guy?
gross
God
dudes.
damn.
He had charisma.
Yeah.
I like how the acting, because we're talking about performances, I like how the acting style in the 60s is like, it's more over the top. Like, we could see a 60s period piece where people are acting like real humans.
Yep.
Because like, but what we're seeing is sort of Ellie's idea of how people acted because she's only seen it portrayed in movies.
Yeah.
So these people in her dream are acting like they're in a 60s movie instead of being like, I'm a real human.
But isn't she supposed to just be witnessing history?
She is, but I think that's what's so interesting about it is because it's a dream, I don't know if she is like, it's not like playing back a film, right? I think that she's like, part of the whole supernatural thing going on here is this like, she's getting psychic impressions and stuff, you know? So it's like, I think that she's coloring it with her own idea of what things were like as well.
Well, I think even the fact that I think I agree with you because even when she sees the vision of Sandy being killed, I think she's just so holding on
she
so
had a
strong
vision
to
of that, but that didn't happen.
to the idea, exactly, of Sandy being the victim.
Yeah.
And she has to like kind of open up to the reality of what
That was
happened.
really well done too, because when that happened, from the camera angles we were given and stuff, it was ambiguous.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure who killed who here, and I was waiting for the camera to flip and reveal, but then it doesn't, and we just hear Ellie's version of the truth and move on from
And we
there.
start seeing Sandy kind of in London, modern day, all bloody and stuff.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, it could be either way.
Edgar Wright said that, or no, I think they said this in the movie, right? High spirits soaked into the walls or something. The pub's owner was like, Ellie asks her if she believes in ghosts or spirits or something, and she's like, "Oh, I don't know if I believe in ghosts like that, but I can tell you that like there is people have had good times here and bad times here, and all of those high spirits soaked into the walls, and so like it's definitely haunted by that, if anything." And I read an article where Edgar Wright basically said that, where he's like, basically the same thing. He doesn't know if he believes in actual ghosts, but he believes in some sort of like, whether that's a supernatural thing or not, it might just be kind of like a, this sort of Dune thing we're talking about where it like seems supernatural, but it's not.
Yeah, we just don't understand.
Yeah, and it's like there's this like a psychic, like you've been in a place where a bunch of things are happening, and it's sort of like there's a vibe. You know what I mean?
This movie
Yeah.
could fit in the Shining universe.
It's an interesting
Yeah,
idea.
100%.
100%.
Yeah, The Shining it's sort of the same thing, right? Where it's like the place is haunted, not literally by ghosts, but by things that have happened there, and I don't know. It's a weird idea.
Yeah. What do you guys think of Diana Rigg in this movie? Because this is her final movie before she passed away. Miss Collins.
Oh, I loved her.
Yeah, I wish they gave us a bit more of her.
Oh yeah,
and maybe that would have made it too clear if we got to really know her. That like, oh, this is someone that's important.
It's kind of like a Scooby-Doo movie.
Yeah.
When you get towards the end, we're like, okay, how many characters have they met?
Yeah,
it's gonna be one of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately,
it's your grandma.
I feel like unfortunately I didn't believe. I mean, is this disrespectful now that she's passed? But I feel like I didn't believe her character that much. I feel like
as a killer.
No, as a character in real life. Like I feel like I kind of saw an actress there. Like when I was watching the movie, she took me out of it a little bit. I think,
really?
Because I was like, this. She kind of seemed like this kind of stereotypical like mysterious old woman character, and she was like, "Oh dearie, you'll see a lot of things out there. Just you wait." I don't know. It seemed kind of cheesy.
I didn't have quite that same experience.
Yeah, I mean, it might have just been me.
But
Oh, you know her from Bond?
That's one, but mostly Game of Thrones.
And,
yeah, she's Dinah Rigg, but she's Tracy.
Lena Tyrell.
Yeah, but anyways, they don't give her that much as an old lady, and I wish they did.
Yeah.
I wish they gave her like quirks that you could have connected. And I don't know.
Everything that they gave her, you would have had to have seen seeds of it in Sandy.
For sure. And I think it would have connected it too much, but I don't know. I just didn't find her as the old lady super interesting until she gets her serial killer monologue. But by then it's like a little bit goofy.
So wait,
that's kind of perfect though, because you see her a couple times. When you see her, you kind of despise and respect and love her.
Yeah.
Like she's always like, she's a bitch, but she's cool.
Yeah, fair enough. Even how she's like, "Oh, sorry, I'm gonna kill you, but I'll do it nicely." Fair.
Yeah, I mean, what about John? What about his performance?
It was fine.
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like there's it felt sort of not otherworldly, but it felt sort of like the movie has a trippy quality, and you feel as if you're being taken on this kind of sort of a psychedelic journey, and so I feel like at times when he comes up, he's like, "Ellie, do you want to go to a party with?" Like, there's sort of like a little bit of like, am I high right now? Or why are you acting like this? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you seem like you're being really enthusiastic. I don't know.
Yeah, if it had turned out that she had imagined him or something, it would have been like, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, he's the character that took me out of it the most, where I'm like, you just aren't a real human. You exist to be the light at the end of the tunnel.
But
for
you know what's funny? But like, what's funny is that I feel like I saw myself in him. Like, I feel like if I was
you're such a good guy.
Well, no.
If you were the only guy in the fashion class,
honestly,
like he is.
Guys, I was a nerd. I was a loser. I did not party. Okay,
This is
I
present.
didn't do
Present
drugs
tense.
in high school. I didn't do any of this crazy stuff. I was the goody two shoes. My parents were proud of me. Okay, that was me.
I'm proud of you. Right?
I'm a loser.
He's our oldest.
Yeah, I'm a second oldest. But so I feel like I saw
We don't
that.
talk about the first
And
one.
this is also why the vibes in the beginning when they're partying and stuff, and she's like, "Just leave me alone. I just want to sleep."
Yeah.
Everyone's like trying to get drunk. I'm like, man, what was it? Alessia Cara's song. You guys remember that? Alessia Cara is I think she's Canadian. Maybe she's not. But she had a song where it's like, "What am I doing here at a party?" It like the whole song is about like people are going crazy at a party, and she's like, "I just want to go home."
Yeah,
like that. That's the vibe.
Oh, I hear that.
Yeah. And so I'm like, maybe that's John. He's like, I'm existing in this space, but now I see somebody who is not comfortable. I want to make them feel comfortable.
That's fair.
I appreciated it. Although the acting did kind of seem over the top sometimes.
Nope.
Terrence Stamp, like his, I feel like I didn't believe him. I'm like, that's an actor.
Well, it
really?
also felt like he was needlessly cryptic in a way where I'm like, that's not how people communicate. That's
He had such a ambiguous smile.
yeah.
What is that emotion?
Yeah, that
What is
exists
that?
for the
I don't know
movie,
what emotion
but
that is.
in real life, it's like a little goofy. But I'm fine with that in an Edgar Wright movie. Everything's so weird and heightened anyway that I'm like, oh, okay, creepy old guy, sure.
Yeah.
Or
I was just kind of like sad because I'm like, this guy needs to retire. Because he's done a lot of stuff. He's had a very storied career. Terrence Stamp has been in so much stuff.
Yep.
But I feel like he's really good at playing this sort of like mysterious guy.
Yeah, fair.
But I feel like he was like, it's almost like he was too tired to
You know what I really like about this
do
movie?
it.
It's a real genre blender. I had no
Yes!
idea where it was going.
Let's
there.
talk
Same.
about
When
this.
she's walking with her friends, roommates, and she's a black sheep. She's a few feet back from the pack, and then she sees Terrence Stamp's character. Sees him walk out of like a girls kind of, I don't know what it is, one of those weird theaters that people used to go to jack off on seats. I don't know what the hell that, but he walks out of something like that, and it's kind of like, I guess it's starting to give to the audience, hey, maybe she can't really make it here unless she starts earning money in a seedy way.
Yeah.
But then that ultimately just ends up being like a jump off point for her dreams and this world we're going to enter through dreams that she never actually touches in real life.
Yeah.
I also... you gonna say more about that?
No, I'm not.
I was just gonna say that, like...
But you're just on this roller coaster.
Yeah, well, and I really like that point because I feel like up to that point, you're on a roller coaster, and then she sees him, she sees the kind of posters of like girls there, and she's kind of like, I don't want this to happen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to just keep going on this track until something bad happens. And then that's the point at which she says, I'm not going to follow with the other kids from the dorm, and she starts walking the
I'm going to
opposite
start
direction.
dancing.
Well,
honestly, at this point in the movie, I was like, is that going to be her pimp? Is she going to start
no. I'm saying
paying her rent this way?
The cool part about that point is that she starts walking in the opposite direction. So I'm like, that's thematic. She's deciding that, no, I'm going to make this my own thing. So then she also, like shortly afterwards, she sees the notice for the other room for rent, and she decides, okay, I'm not going to stay in this dorm. I'm going to go make my own thing happen.
But doesn't she also see other ads for like, take this card if you want to, or call this number if you're going to...
There's like beautiful blonde.
Yeah. So she sees a couple of things like this.
Yeah, so she's like considering, oh man, a lot of girls probably come here with dreams and this is where they end up.
Yeah. And the other thing we haven't even spoke about is this, it's Soho. It is Soho.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the movie.
Soho, London, not Soho, LA. Because there's both.
There's more than that too. I think
There's
it's like
so many Sohos.
Hong Kong or something too.
I think there's one in New York.
Is there even one in LA?
Leave a comment.
I don't know. Anyways, I think that's a big part of the movie, having it grounded in place, because obviously all the story that she goes through in Sandy's world occurs in Soho, and it's a different era. It's a different neighborhood in a different era.
For sure.
But it's still a little bit of that neighborhood in the current era.
No.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely a part of this movie that I cannot appreciate properly because I don't know much about that. I don't know much about the 60s kind of vibe and the culture and the history there. Yeah. But like Edgar Wright is obviously so informed and, he's a big fan of all this stuff and that culture. And so like, they actually filmed it in Soho. Cool. They didn't like recreate things. It was like, well, I guess for the 60s they had to.
It's a British, most of his movies are, it's a British movie.
Yeah.
And I love, one of my hit picks also is that joke about, of course I have a car. How else am I going to get from South London to North London?
Yeah. I like how they bring us to that though. Cause I'm like, even if I don't know that you would need a car for that, now I do.
And there's just a few other like super English characters or British characters, like the staff at the bar.
Yeah.
And there's also a bunch of like mature women that like cuts to a mature woman giving her appraisal of the scenario, whether it's the bar manager or her teacher and another, or her grandma and other women in her life.
Yeah. The pub owner was an interesting character. I mean, she kind of like guides her a little bit, but I feel like my opinion of her is sort of tainted after she does the like, he wasn't a pimp or whatever. He was a former cop.
Yeah.
Or no, it's like call 911 and tell them he was a former police officer. That'll make them go faster. Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of on the nose there.
I'll step on it now.
Yeah. So tell them it was a former cop so the audience knows.
Yeah.
Like literally. Yeah. But I mean, it was important information and we had to get it somehow. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I don't know. I guess I feel like that. Halfway through the movie, I feel like the movie started getting less tight, and I feel like that character is like one of those characters. I'm like, you could have done everything she accomplished a little bit tighter without her.
Yeah, for sure.
And I this movie's not that long; it's only 2 hours. I feel like it could have been tightened up though. Overall, like the whole thing could have just been like brought in a little bit,
like 12 off.
Yeah, I think 12. Yeah, 145 would have been tight.
Yeah.
And I mean, part of it is like the dripping in enjoying the 60s where it really takes its time, and sometimes it's really good, but man, my big nitpick, or one of my big nitpicks is, and this is where I most see Edgar Wright, is that first dance with Sandy and Jack, where it keeps transitioning between like Anya Taylor-Joy and Thomasin McKenzie, and it's like every dance move it'll switch, and it's really cool. And then it's like keeps going, and they keep switching, and it keeps going, and they keep switching, and it keeps going.
I mean, I don't know.
Keep switching. That was like that for me. I was like, all right, Edgar Wright, I get it. Like you're like,
I don't know.
You found some clever ways to hide these cuts, but like, I needed like 3 cut back and forth, not like 16 back and forth.
Did you kind of get the feeling watching this that you're like, I could go into this not really knowing it was an Edgar Wright movie, and it would be enjoyable?
I think so,
because I feel like I went in thinking about it as an Edgar Wright movie, and so every time I was kind of looking for that, because I'm like, this, he's Scott Pilgrim, he's Baby Driver. I went in looking for those moments, and so when they happened, I was like, there they are, and it didn't really bother me. Like, I feel like maybe they spin around one or two times too many, but I feel like I still was like, in the past, I've been really hard on him, where I'm like, we get it, but I think at this point now, having been acquainted with his work a lot, I'm like, nah, that's what he does.
This was certainly the most reined in. There was a couple times a few of the optical effects bothered me, where like the camera will be like doing a warp, or like the lens will be warping.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's cool, but like 7 seconds, dude, not like 30
we get it,
seconds.
Ed. Yeah.
And he's just like, he's basking in doing kind of traditional 60s filmmaking stuff within this movie, and it works really well. But that stuff, I really like Edgar Wright's style. And I found myself wanting more, but also less of him.
Oh, he basks in this movie. Like it takes like the first half of this movie before a lot of it really takes off, and before there's ghosts and all that stuff. Yeah. The first like 45 minutes, there's just her going to school and dancing dreams, and that's what I'm saying. Like it goes through all
dancing
these
dreams,
multiple genres.
Yeah.
But
I like that though, because like I really, like you said, I had no idea it was gonna end up on like campy serial killer showdown with the burning house at the end.
Yeah.
And like I was there for the ride, and it's silly and stupid, but like I was on it.
Even that was Edgar Wright. Like I remember in this movie there was like it was like a close up of someone's face getting slashed or something. And I was like, whoa, that was a lot. But it actually reminded me of Hot Fuzz, where the old lady gets like drop kicked in the face. I was like, yeah, he went there.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Except now it's just like in a more horror kind of way.
I think the ending kind of like made me feel weird, because the whole time it's like this like pretty serious growing sense of dread, and then things just get kind of cheesy at the end. I was like, that's disappointing. I wanted more of like a mind-blowing sort of like, oh my gosh, what are the ramifications of here, and like, oh, there's things happening with her mind, and
or she gets trapped in the 60s or something.
Or she like gets trapped in Sandy's body or
like
something.
You wanted a moment like at the end of The Shining where the camera zooms in and like Jack Torrance is in the picture from the 1930s, and you're like, what?
I think I was expecting something like that, where it's like you have to work to figure out what the hell happened.
Yeah.
But instead we know exactly what happened.
It's pretty clear.
Yeah. I want to say though, like James, you've brought it up a few times, but like the mixing of genres, I feel like I really want to address that and how cool that is here. Like the especially in terms of the music. Like we talked before the podcast about what was it? It's Petula Clark's. I don't know how you say her name, but Downtown, song, like turning this like ballad about fun times in the city into this like haunting, melancholy. It's almost like a
nocturne.
A nocturne, a requiem, it's like a lament for something. And it's like, especially it's interesting because she sings that during her audition for the guy who's going to ruin her life. And so it's like in hindsight, I'm like, oh man, that is like it's so haunting. And it I got chills.
Yep.
And they do that with a few other songs in the movie. I just really appreciate that. I haven't seen a genre mashup like this executed this well in a while. I mean, there are some, and there's also parts where she's like, Ellie is running through the streets of London because something scary happened.
Oh yeah.
And they're playing like a fun 60s song or whatever, but there's these like brooding strings in the background, like, and it's like,
she runs realistically too. She like ugly runs, I
was like, man, she's pretty fit for a fashion designer. I don't know. She doesn't seem to be athletic, but she was going.
But I mean, when
Adrenaline.
ghosts are chasing you.
That's right. You find the strength.
Fast.
Did you guys see Tarantino influence in this movie?
Tarantino.
I see Tarantino influence in every Edgar Wright movie.
Yeah, now that
he worships at his feet.
One of the
Does he?
feet.
Hey!
After we did our last Tarantino coverage, someone wrote in the comments or emailed us saying you guys should. What it was is I said I bet they're friends, and then someone was like, you should listen to this podcast that's like 3 hours long from Empire Magazine's podcast with Tarantino and Edgar Wright just talking about movies. They are friends, and now that I know that, when I was watching this movie, I saw all these shots and I was like, that's the Tarantino shot. That's the Tarantino shot. One was the overhead shot. You know when Tarantino shoots from the rafters?
Yep.
It's when Ellie's in the bathroom and you see 2 bathroom stalls. You see the stall she's in and the stall that Jocasta's in. And then they do the fucking Pulp Fiction dance scene.
Yeah.
It's like full on. Even some of the dance moves, I was like, that is John Travolta's dance move.
Yeah.
Oh,
like, this is completely homage right here.
Totally.
Wow. Yeah, no, I mean, I wasn't thinking about that at all when I was watching it. So.
Well, I was fucking enhanced.
Oh, nice. You were pulling from other dimensions. You were just accessing all
every
the
part of my brain.
You close your eyes and enter the mind of a man in the 30s.
You were watching in 5D.
I knew all about cinema.
I feel like I want to address, because we haven't really talked about it a ton, the idea that this is very much kind of giving the viewer a perspective on what it feels like to be a vulnerable woman in a world dominated by predatory men.
This should be mandatory watching for young men.
I definitely got that feeling. I feel like, because I'm such a nice, good person, I feel like I've never been on the other side of this sort of like interaction where I'm like actively trying to exploit someone.
Yeah. Tweet at Zizan Sorry. Send him a movie ticket.
But let me tell you that like I've also never been a woman being exploited by someone else, and this was like, I really felt like I was going through the pain there, and I was like, man, men suck.
Oh, 100%.
And they're everywhere. After that taxi
Men are
encounter.
everywhere. You can't get rid of them.
They are. After that taxi encounter, it's just like, God, there's potential threats everywhere.
Yeah, I wanted to go around London just punching people. Stop doing this.
Uppercut.
Stop being asses.
Man, it really works. And like the way that they make it a supernatural threat too, and like make the ghosts all these gross men, and just the way the way when she's the way when you're in the bed and you have the POV of them walking up to the bed, and it's like switching between them, and they all do the same things, the same lines, and you get like the remix of the lines they've said before.
Yeah.
It's horrifying and blood chilling, and I felt so strongly.
It feels like a sleep paralysis, sort of like you can't escape.
It
like
was really
you're
fucking
just stuck in the
effective.
bed. Yeah,
I know. And then, I can't believe the movie manages to make me feel pity for them at the end.
Oh, they're victims in their own way?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
And
that's complicated.
I was like,
I didn't like that.
That's life, baby. It's all black and white,
So, like-
even if the ghosts are.
yeah.
Well, okay, what I didn't like about it was it almost made it seem like it's like the movie flips it over and then flips it back, where Miss Collins is the bad guy all of a sudden, and then they're attacking her, the hands are bursting through the floor, and then they pick up the phone and be like, help, and then it's almost like we're on their side trying to be like, oh yeah, they are the victims, and so Miss Collins the bad guy, so kill her. But then it flips it back, and Mrs. Collins like, I had to kill them or whatever, and she's like, I know, I understand, or whatever. I forget the line, but
maybe there's a nuanced discussion to be had in the sense that she is fighting back against the institution of the patriarchy of the men, but these individual men, like who are like hiring a prostitute, like, do they individually deserve death, or is it this oppressive experience she had with like the bigger structure that deserved her fight back? Because like I agree, like it's really complicated, but like when she kills Matt Smith, you're like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And when she starts killing the dudes, you're like, all right, girl, you get it. But then when you think about it, you're like, did these men individually deserve to die? Because like that is the transaction. Like Matt Smith definitely deserved to die, but like, and it becomes more complicated. And maybe that's the nuance of it, is that like these, like the men deserve to die, but these individual men, like mans, didn't.
This really reminds me of the movie Monster from 2005 from Charlize Theron.
I haven't seen it.
It's basically this little microcosm is that movie.
No.
I think I would have appreciated
That movie
it more
rocks.
if there was sort of if there was an allusion to that,
Maybe.
where we understood that there is a outside cause that is causing all of this shittiness. But the way that it was presented to the audience, it just kind of feels like a flip-flop.
Sure.
But if there was like, and I don't know how you would do that. I mean, like, you know, I'm not saying I can rewrite the screenplay to be better, but like, I feel like I wouldn't have felt this if there was an allusion to a third force that is causing men to behave or men to indulge their worst instincts.
Well, I think there is, and it's the business. It's the business, baby.
Well,
you want to
there
get
is
on that
there.
stage. You got to get with that guy first. So was it clear?
Yeah, I just
was
didn't
she
feel like that
actually
was
like just an escort?
By the end, I
by
think
the end,
so. I
or-
thought so.
Because I guess the guys are getting grosser and grosser. So it's not like she's moving up and trying to.
No,
Yeah,
I got
bigger
the sense at one
stages.
point. I don't know if Francis began as a pimp and that was the plan the whole time, but like by the end, he had the other woman that he was like fondling at the bar, and I figured that it was a whole
I think
thing.
she's just an escort by the end. Man, that reveal of the like the puzzle, the marionette bit, and she's like she's a wind up toy.
Yeah.
I was just like the disgust I feel. I'm just like,
but
no.
At that point, I didn't know that they were gonna keep going down. I thought that was like maybe gonna be like a little dip before she's like, I'm a star. I deserve my chance.
You got to start somewhere.
No.
No, it's literally just like, okay, you get to be one of these backup girls and just have sex with a bunch of guys, and that's it.
But there's ties to the main thread with Ellie's character as well. It's like, are you going to go and create fashion that is authentic to you, or are you going to end up being like a hack in that world and then end up having to do things that you don't want to do?
Right.
Which is maybe how she sees Jocasta with like just these other types of fashion that's just like she just doesn't identify with at all.
Right. Oh man.
Do you guys think that I wonder if the rewatches are really going to suffer with the knowledge that like she can't change anything in the past? Because I think there's a lot of fun in the experience of Ellie going back, and like you kind of think like, oh, maybe she's breaking through and she'll be able to change the past or like do something.
I never thought that. My mind never went there.
Oh, really? I feel like now knowing that like she's just watching and like these are events that already happened, I feel like it'll take some of the enjoyment out. And maybe it's just one of those movies that like once the roller coaster is revealed and you understand what the thing is, it's just not a good rewatch.
I agree. I think the rewatch is not going to be great because on the first watch, when she dyes her hair blonde, you're like, is this some fucking Black Swan shit?
Yeah, totally.
This is what's going to happen.
Yeah. She goes buys the jacket and shit and starts to look like her so much.
Yeah, it could have went way a different direction.
They nailed that double casting, man. They couldn't have gotten two other people because they're like similar but different. Oh man, it's so good.
They're very similar builds.
Yeah,
but like
they're not similar in any other way. Honestly,
what
are they? How similar do you think they are?
No, I mean it's pretty much just the build. Yeah.
Other than that, like their faces and their like vibe to me are very opposed.
It just works so well.
It just does.
Fucking work.
Yeah. I mean, I guess there is like, we were talking earlier about their like facial structures and the difference there. It's like, I feel like the casting there is really good because you can see Thomasin almost becoming like a glam girl, but not quite. Yeah.
Big hit pick for me is all the shots when you're like revealing how connected they are in like the mirrors and stuff. When you see like one in the mirror, one and not. I think my favorite of those is when they're in the telephone booth and they're kissing and Matt Smith goes for the neck. And you see them look at each other in the booth, but like it probably wasn't a mirror. It was probably two men like that were doing it, and like I don't know. Some of them it's probably just like two different things happening. There's not actually a mirror, but like people are matching actions. But sometimes there is. It was that shot in particular. I was like, this is a sick shot.
Definitely definitely a cool idea to have. I mean, obviously that idea has been done in film before, but like I feel like the execution of it here was really interesting, and like the fact that Ellie is kind of like following her in the mirror dimension.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's super cool. Ellie's just her facial expressions throughout that of just being kind of like emotionally ambiguous. Like she doesn't know what is a good thing and what's a bad thing and what she can do or who she should be afraid for.
And I love the ambiguity too of her looking into like when what do you call it? What's her name? Sandy. When Sandy's like looking at the mirror, you get the feeling like you're asking the question the whole time, does Sandy see Ellie?
Yeah.
Ellie sees Sandy, but I think the movie is clear that Sandy doesn't really see Ellie the whole time. She has no idea that there's another force.
Yeah, she should be looking into the future.
At one point, I thought we were going to get like White Woman Candyman, where like she was going to start to embody, come out in the future, and that was going to take control of Ellie, and like that she would kill people or not or whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they didn't go that way.
Yeah.
I think it was a better.
I saw that movie already.
Yeah. We're into hit picks and nitpicks.
Yeah, we're in here.
A sort of, it's not a hit pick or what's a mid? It's a mid pick.
Mezzopeco.
When Ellie is getting the apartment, she's like signing up for the apartment with Miss Collins, and she's like, I'm gonna need 2 months rent in advance and 2 months deposit, and she's like, the reason is had people take off in the middle of the night, and Ellie's like, Miss Collins, I would never do that. And I guess she doesn't really, but like I feel like the way that she said it, it's like so obvious that it's like something like that is going to happen.
Totally.
But it's also true. You believe that character.
Yeah, she doesn't think she would do that.
No,
but then she does try to do that.
I believe her, but like I don't believe the movie.
Yeah.
Big sense of big hit pick for me is when there's the shot when the house is burning down and you go outside, and there was like this crazy sense of relief. Not that she survived or that John survived, but that like people would understand why she was going crazy, because they would like people would. And I feel like in the universe, it's not like she's like, whoa, she was crazy and had a mental break. It'd be like, no, there was ghosts and they fucked with her because like that lady killed like dozens of men and then went crazy and she saw them in her mind, like it would be more reasonable to believe in the supernatural based on what happened than she was schizophrenic. And I got this crazy sense of relief.
Do you think the people in
No way, dude.
You think people are going to
like,
believe?
wow, she burned that house down. That crazy bitch you live.
Yeah.
But do you think it'd be like that?
You think the people are going to be like, oh,
found
I guess there was ghosts.
Well, they found all those bodies in the wall. Like there was bodies. Like the bodies were there. Like we see.
Incinerated now.
Yeah, but like she
But
wasn't
there's still
saying
bones
anything
and
to
shit.
anybody. She was just acting weird. That's what I found it frustrating
She
throughout
told
the
to
movie.
John. I don't know. I think
Did
that
she tell John?
John. Yeah, she did.
What did she tell him?
I thought she told him stuff about like having seen the dead like the because she she tells him like some elements of what's going on, what happened, where she saw.
But she doesn't know. She doesn't know about the bodies in the walls.
She doesn't know about that. But I'm sure after he'd been stabbed, like
Well,
by that
sure,
lady.
yeah. And I think that like later we see them.
Yeah.
You know, everything's all cool with her and her grandmother and John, and they are all probably on the same
Well,
page
and even
with the
like
supernatural bits,
Jocasta
maybe.
is like nice.
Well, we see Jocasta give her like a
No, it's
I
not.
guess
think
you
it's,
did.
It's more than that. I think it's like we cool.
really.
I think
thought
it
so.
was. I think I'm leaning toward. I can't remember because I was faded, but I'm leaning towards Riley.
I think Jocasta is still full bitch at the end, but she's
All the
like,
friends are-
well, I can't deny that you did good,
Okay.
did well.
Sure.
tempered bitch, restrained bitch.
But
You
her
done
but
well.
the friends, like the cronies, seem to be more like you did good.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I
They
like
came
in this
around.
movie that she sees her mom's ghost, and that's not like a big part of the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, she doesn't have any
It's like,
lines.
it's like her backstory,
She doesn't say anything.
just like ambiguous, gentle ghost of mom.
I like those.
I wish the
ghosts.
mom nodded though. I wish she was like,
Yeah, one of those like, you know
did
that
good,
gif
yeah,
with
yeah,
like the
yeah,
two
yeah.
Star Trek dudes.
Well, that was another reason.
If you're watching this on Spotify, there's video now.
yeah, that's true.
That was another reason why I was like, maybe it's not supernatural because her mom doesn't say anything. She just chills there. It's like a living photograph more than a person, you know?
Harry Potter style.
Yeah.
The ending shouldn't have been Anya Taylor-Joy in the mirror. It should have been the mom and her like having tea together, and then like they like look through the room. And they're like, oh, hi.
They're like, oh, we're spending eternity together in the mirror dimension.
It's Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
You needed to
God.
have Sandy appear as benevolent Sandy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
needed that because if you don't have that, then the whole, like back to the dramatic question of the movie, like can she make it kind of thing, and
Yeah.
Sandy representing this other part of her subconscious, that all would fall apart if Sandy wasn't there at the end.
Yeah. I sort of have again, it's sort of like a mid pick, I guess, but like
These are just notes.
those lights at night in her room, they drive me insane.
Oh, that's a hit
How
pick.
could anyone? I mean, it is a hit pick because of like they
It looks
establish
so
it as a
cool,
thematic
yeah.
thing, and then they bring it back, and it's beautiful. It's great. But I was like, when I first saw it, I'm like, this is unrealistic. How could anyone sleep in a room?
Absolutely not.
Never
Like this.
they never address it either. She's
Yeah.
never like, oh god, oh fuck.
I know.
Although then that's the first transition into the dream world where she like is like and she rolls over with the blanket and it flips over and it's this huge blanket and it goes away. I'm like, that's a cool fucking transition.
There's Edgar Wright.
The lights were
beautiful.
awesome.
Yeah.
That really helped the feeling and mood of the film.
Yeah.
You're right, Riley. Like that would have been the kind of thing like, hey, lady, you didn't tell me this was a thing. I'm moving. Like it's so awful. But then you had this, it went from pulse cycling between like white and blue and red to later in the movie just being red, red, red. And it just made this boring room so much more
So good.
active.
Yeah. No, I appreciated it, but like, I couldn't turn that part of my brain off.
Fair enough. Big hit pit for me is when I can't remember exactly what happens, but one of the screams gets like affected into a siren, and it's like this really smooth transition, and then you're in the fashion school, and it goes from the scream at the same frequency, and then it goes like, and then it's like, and it was such a smooth transition. I was very impressed.
Yeah, it's the kind of stuff you get when the movie's kind of like vertically integrated with an auteur director who's like probably wrote it, directed it, and then had a lot to do in
He
the
had
editing.
another writing partner on this, which I think is a good thing. I think Edgar Wright's a really fucking good director, and I think he's a good idea man, but I think his like character work is his weakness.
He needs,
That's
needs
why Baby Driver is probably his like weakest movie in my opinion, because the characters are just
It
like
was just him.
yeah.
Yeah, he needs a partner to kind of.
Whereas
help him.
I think the characters in this are very strong. Another hit.
Yeah,
pick.
there's 2 screenplay credits. It's Edgar Wright and Christy Wilson Cairns.
Yeah, and I think it's important too because it's such a like movie about the woman's experience.
Is she the one that did 1917? Hold on. Yeah, she did 1917.
Oh,
It is
nice.
her.
Give her.
Man,
Strong-
that's a movie
strong
I'll
players.
rewatch. I won't rewatch
I
this one.
I won't rewatch.
She's cool. She's British too.
Hit pick for me was her laying down each night and kind of like seeming excited.
Totally.
Like And the first night, she doesn't know what's going to happen. And she's kind of like, oh, I'm in this new city and blah, blah, blah. Let's see how it goes. And then the dream happens. But then like I think 2 times after that, we see her lie down and she's like, all right, here we go. I'm putting on my VR headset. You know, like I'm entering the metaverse.
It'd be pretty cool, yeah, when you think you're going into a glamorous 60s life. Like, it'd be cool.
But then like the fact that they show that, and this is sort of the real hitpick, the fact that they show her being so eager to go in, I'm like, that's perfectly setting it up for her being afraid to sleep. And now she's avoiding it at all costs. Yeah.
That I totally agree with that nitpick. To me, it leads to a nitpick later when she has the freak out at the nightclub, which is a great freak out. Those ghosts are fucking horrifying.
Yeah.
And then she goes outside and she sees Matt Smith everywhere. That's good. But then she invites him back to her place. He's like, I don't want to sleep. And he's like, well, I know how to keep you up. That's all good. Go to his place. Don't go to your fucking haunted room. I thought that was a stupid choice.
Also, maybe she's not allowed.
But maybe because he lives in the dorm and she's like, we're going to go back.
He doesn't live in the dorm. He lives in North London.
Oh, yeah.
South London?
Maybe that's why, is that he is too drunk to drive.
Yeah, okay.
So, you know what?
Yeah,
I'd take it back.
Yeah.
But
that probably makes sense.
It was a little bit, I was like, don't go to your haunted room, girl.
I also excused that sort of, and their behavior in general, and her willingness to kind of be like, just distract myself by having sex, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because they were drunk, I guess.
Yeah.
Like they don't drink, or she doesn't drink.
Yeah.
But like that was also a question. Did Jocasta spike the drink? She hands them the drinks.
And they flash back to it later too.
Do they?
Yeah.
Wasn't there? Because
there's a flashback where she's like, oh, did someone, at the police station, did someone give you a drink? And she's like, no.
Oh, I completely missed that.
And so I think it's uncertain. I don't think she did.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Maybe it's just like a
And I mean, like the fact that when she gets poisoned, the hallucinations become exceptionally strong.
Right.
Maybe it is a thing where when she gets drugged, it's way worse.
The hallucinations at the end, I wanted, because I'm disappointed in the final act, but
I liked it.
That kind of parallel filming of like it being in the real world and being in this hallucinatory world kind of saved it.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, okay, I'm not too angry at you because this looks and feels really cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I kind of wanted like one more element. Like it was like a beautiful dress, but it like needed like a necklace or something.
Horns.
Anklet.
Big claws.
Yeah.
What?
No, because like I like it's like the reflective stairs and it's kind of cracking and she's going up. There's like a lot of visual theme around like cracked glass.
Right.
And like when Thomasin McKenzie breaks through the glass and grabs her. Like there's a lot of that. So that works. I like that it's the young, like it goes from being Dinah Rigg to Anya Taylor-Joy. Like you get it. She's carrying the knife. You're right. The parallel vision is good. And it also kind of takes away the attention from like the fact the house is currently catching fire and you're just kind of like, oh, it's all whatever.
Yeah.
But it just was missing the like final touch or something. I think the whole final act it's just like, it was close and I liked it. I liked the silliness, but it needed a cherry or something.
Yeah. It really just took
Her
me
and
out
young
a little
Sandy kiss. What does it mean?
Yeah.
That'd be wild.
It's fuck men, women, just look out for each other.
Yeah.
That could be a moral.
Yeah, they needed to hop back to the 60s for a second or something. Like they had to like, I mean, not like this, but like have like their chase cycle. Like you said, like they get trapped in the 60s and they have to like fight there or something.
Yeah, we're transported.
Or Sandy gets like a second chance.
Yeah.
At the audition, she walks away or something like that.
Something.
Like we transported to British Parliament and they're passing legislation against the red light district.
Yeah.
That's what I would want.
Yeah, Margaret Thatcher shows up for some reason.
Judi Dench. Yeah.
Dennis needs me to review TechLink.
We're very
let's just end it right now then.
Yeah. I have just a couple of nitpicks. Questions. What do you guys think on the credits? The fact that it was like the actual modern day Soho just empty.
That was cool. It was like a cool little
apparently
stylistic.
it was like they had shot and edited the film and he was just in Soho during COVID and he had never seen it empty, so he shot that. That was cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I hated that she went to the police. That's a stupid thing, just so that they could like make it kind of work.
It
I hated
felt weird.
that. And then was that final question? Was that Edgar Wright in the bar? Did he have a little cameo as a server in the bar? There's a server, right? I think she's asking for the job, and he's just long-haired guy, or like white guy with long black hair and a beard, picks up a tray and goes. And I'm like, I think that was Edgar
maybe.
Wright.
Yeah, I don't know.
See it?
I didn't
see
catch
that.
it.
Audience, let me know.
I'm seeing now that his next movie is The Running Man.
What's that about?
It's like the
It's
Arnold
a Schwarzenegger movie when he's in a game show where you get killed. But
I'm kind
It's
of
like a remake?
yeah,
I could be into this. We'll see.
it depends. The futuristic United States of 2025 and the world has become a dystopia. That's gonna be crazy. If he hadn't made this movie, I'd be more skeptical.
Yeah, fair.
But next week, guys, we're going to do the Eternals.
The Elementals.
It's going to be bizarre.
We'll see.
But until then,
Well, we'll
seemingly
see.
the most divisive Marvel movie yet. Some people think it's the best one, and a lot of people think it's the worst one.
oh, do we know if it's like people who normally like Marvel think
I haven't
it's-
looked into that much. I try to avoid reviews before I watch the movie.
It seems like critics are like expecting a certain movie and it's different than
Yeah.
that, and so they're disappointed.
Well, I have no expectations. Actually, I'm expecting it to be bad. The trailers look like crap. So let's check it out next time. But until then, you can email us, hello@therejustmovies.com, or you can tweet at us at TJMPod. That's it. There's no .com. It's at TJMPod
On Twitter.
on Twitter.
Type all that into the URL bar and you'll be good to go.
Say like a
Yeah,
British
yeah.
person.
What?
Yeah.
On Twitter. TJMPod.
Get us on Twitter.
Oh, okay. Now let's. Shit. Bye.